Hello, if you're watching this, it's because you're studying GCSE English Language, Paper 1 Section B, Narrative Writing. The most difficult thing on this paper is deciding what to write about in the first place. So let's have a look at what the mark scheme says we should do. Assessment Objective 5 says that you must communicate clearly, effectively and imaginatively, and that translates in the skills descriptors to convincing and compelling. If you compel someone to do something, it means that you force them to do it. So if you write a compelling narrative, it means it really makes your reader enjoy it and want to carry on reading. Convincing and compelling. So when we're deciding what to write about, we need to be convincing and compelling. These are the last 8 narrative writing questions from the last 8 narrative writing papers, going back to 2019, the June and the November papers. Write the opening part of a story about a place affected by the weather, life-saving rescues, an event that cannot be explained, new beginnings. All of these questions are designed to get your imagination flowing, but it's more helpful to us, I feel, if we divide them into sections. So let's have a look at these 3, for example. Write the opening of a story about a place that is severely affected by the weather. Write a story about a life-saving rescue. Write a story with the title Abandoned. Well, what do all those stories have in common? That's right, they are all about a crisis. How about these questions? A story about a magical world, a story about time travel, or a story about an event that cannot be explained? Well, these questions all seem to be about discovery of something strange or wonderful. And then how about these 2 questions then? Write a story about a time when things turn out unexpectedly, or a story about a new beginning. Well, those 2 questions seem to be about some sort of change and some sort of hope. And so if we were to make some comparisons and draw some parallels between all these questions, then I think we would come up with crisis, change and discovery as 3 very interlocking themes. And let's be honest, all good stories are in some way about crisis and or change and or discovery. So knowing this provides us with a useful guide when we're coming up with ideas for what to write about. Let's come up with some examples then from stories perhaps that we know. A girl goes on a sea journey and falls in love with a boy, but her family disapprove because he's poor. The ship sinks and her lover dies, but their love lasts forever. That is a story about crisis, change and discovery. How about this one? An undercover cop goes street racing to investigate gangsters. He wins a car chase and brings the bad guys to justice. That is a story about crisis, change and discovery. A farmer's boy comes home to find his family murdered. He goes on a journey across the galaxy and gets revenge on the evil empire who killed them. A girl is abused and exploited by a powerful family. She kills herself by drinking disinfectant. Or how about this one? A loyal soldier kills the king so he can become king. However, he can't escape his crimes and he is defeated in battle and beheaded. You probably figured out that that first story was Titanic. The second was The Fast and the Furious. That one was Star Wars and Inspector Calls. All of these stories are famous because they are about crisis leading to a change and that leading to some sort of discovery. Now, I know what you're thinking. Each of those stories are several hours long. You don't have the time to write a story like that, and nor should you. That's absolutely right. You have 45 minutes to write about 2 sides, whereas these stories took months to write and hours to tell. And so what are we to do with compelling stories like this in the exam? Well, what we do is we decide where on these timelines we want to tell our story. So let me give you an example. So in a story about a girl meeting a boy on a ship, but her family don't like him, and then the ship sinks, you're only going to be able to tell a part of that story. And so which part of the story are you going to tell? Are you going to tell the crisis? Are you going to tell the change? Are you going to tell the discovery? Well, how about you tell the part of the story where the rich girl meets a poor boy and they fall in love? You know, that's a discovery, isn't it? And people like stories about discovery. That is a compelling story. Or how about telling the crisis part of the story in which the ship is sinking and you know, both of them can't be saved, and so she has to say goodbye to him and let him drown in order that she may live. Now that is a powerful crisis, and you can tell a very powerful story in the exam about that. Some students love telling crime stories about cops and gangsters and car chases, and that's all fine. If you're interested in that, you can tell a story about that, but you must narrow it down because you don't have time to write a feature film, and so you have to decide which part of a story like that are you going to tell. And so in a story about an undercover cop going street racing, well, why don't you focus on the scene where the cop's preparing to go on this undercover operation? You know, that is a story of crisis. Or why don't you tell the story about two drivers preparing to race in this high stakes race? So Star Wars is a huge story that spans an entire galaxy. You know, which part of an epic story like that would you want to tell? Well, you could just tell the bit about him coming home and finding his family dead and him swearing to take revenge. You know, that would be a good piece of narrative writing. You don't have the time to tell the whole story of an Inspector Calls because it's 2 hours long. So you may choose to tell a story about a girl being dumped by her rich boyfriend, and so you know she doesn't have anywhere to go now, and she's devastated. You know, that is a powerful, compelling story about a crisis and about change and about discovery. Or you could do what J.B. Priestley did and tell the story not of the girl's suicide, but of the policeman who comes to investigate it. And you're not Shakespeare and you don't have the time to tell the whole story of Macbeth. So how about just the bit where an assassin prepares to carry out a hit? Or perhaps where a murderer is brought to justice, he's arrested and questioned. So what we've done here, folks, is we've thought about longer stories that we know, but we don't have time to write about. And we've examined them and we've sort of taken elements from them which would work in our narrative writing. And the reason they work is because these parts are about crisis, about change, or about discovery. And so we have a number of ideas now. And I suppose if we were to put all these ideas together and give them some sort of common thread or common theme, they all seem to be about a journey. And most good stories are about some sort of journey. And you could say that good stories are about a journey, and that's either a physical journey where a character physically goes somewhere in order to make some sort of discovery, or it's a psychological journey in which a character goes on a journey inside their own minds to discover something about themselves. And many, many good stories are about both of those things, in which a physical journey leads to a psychological journey or symbolizes a psychological journey. So in Titanic, the character of Rose, through undergoing this crisis of you know, being on the Titanic as it sinks and falling in love and losing the person she loves, she goes from being a girl to being a woman and discovering that kindness is more important than money. Or in Star Wars, Luke Skywalker goes on a physical journey across the galaxy to avenge his family, but along the way he discovers that he's not a little farmer's boy. He's a born leader, and he's a hero, and he has strength and he has courage, and that he must trust his instincts in order to defeat evil. So the physical journey becomes a psychological journey. And you know, I've given two big grand examples there, but we all undergo psychological discoveries all the time, every day. You know, we've all gone on a journey from childhood to adulthood, for example, and the best stories are about those things. Okay, in the next video, we'll look at how we might take an idea like this and structure it in a way that will make the examiner give you grade 9. I hope you found this useful. See you next time.